Ever feel like you're just drowning in information? Like there's so much out there.
Totally. It's constant.
And figuring out what actually matters and how to get it quickly, well, that's the real challenge.
Yeah.
So that's what this deep dive is really for, giving you those key insights, the important stuff, without all the noise. Tailored for you.
Exactly. Think of it like your personal briefing. You gave us a great source,
Yeah.
and, well, our job is to pull out the knowledge you can actually use.
And today, that source is, frankly, a goldmine if you're looking to improve your English fluency.
Yay.
You pointed us to this YouTube video from Speak English with Tiffany, and wow, it's packed, like over 45 words and expressions.
That's a lot.
Right. All aimed at making your English sound better, more natural. We've got vocabulary, common phrases, even some slang in there.
Okay. Sounds useful. So our mission then?
Simple, really. We want to boil all that down into language skills you can use, like straight away. Practical tools.
Got it. Actionable insights. Let's do it.
Okay, let's dive in. The video structures it nicely, day by day. So Tiffany starts with Sunday and the word procrastination.
Procrastination. Something I know a little about.
Haven't we all? That tendency to delay things, put them off.
Definitely. She defines it just like that, delaying tasks. And it makes you think, especially as language learners, how often do we put off, speaking practice?
Good point. Or maybe reviewing vocabulary.
Exactly. And I wonder, too, are there cultural differences around it? Like, is it more accepted in some places than others?
That's interesting. I hadn't thought of that. Okay, still on Sunday, the next word is empathy.
Empathy. Understanding, sharing someone else's feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this one, it really resonates with me. I think learning another language forces you to develop empathy, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, you're constantly trying to see things from another perspective, understand someone who communicates differently. It builds that connection.
That makes sense. You're not just translating words. You're trying to grasp their whole viewpoint, their feelings, their culture, maybe.
Right. And navigating those tricky moments, potential misunderstandings.
Yeah, trying to connect despite the language gap. That definitely stretches your empathy muscle.
Okay, moving into Monday, we get prioritize, gratitude, and fortitude.
Prioritize, ordering tasks by importance. Makes sense.
Yeah, she uses good examples, juggling family calls, work projects, cooking dinner. It's that daily balancing act, right?
It really is. And it's so crucial for language learning, too. You have to prioritize, should I focus on grammar today? Or speaking? Or listening?
And everyone prioritizes differently based on their own goals.
Exactly. Then gratitude.
Gratitude, that feeling of appreciation. Tiffany shared a really nice story about a friend bringing her soup when she was sick.
Ah, that's lovely. It makes the concept feel real, not just abstract.
Totally. And it brings up another point, expressing gratitude in a new language.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just about saying thank you. It's about understanding the cultural way to show appreciation, right?
Absolutely. Different cultures have subtle ways of doing it. Knowing those can really deepen your connection.
Okay, last one for Monday. Fortitude.
Fortitude. Courage when things are tough, facing adversity.
Yeah, the examples were about dealing with challenges, standing up for what's right, resilience, basically.
Which you definitely need for language learning. There are always plateaus, setbacks.
Tell me about it.
But fortitude isn't just gritting your teeth. It's also about seeing those challenges as growth opportunities.
Yeah.
Keeping motivated even when it feels slow.
Nicely put. Okay, Tuesday brings delegate, integrity, and ingenious.
Delegate. Giving tasks or responsibility to someone else.
Yes. A good reminder for me, I tend to try and do everything myself sometimes.
I know the feeling. But it's key for teamwork, leadership.
True, and maybe even for learning, like delegating to resources, asking for help.
That's a great way to think about it. Using tutors, language partners, apps, effectively. Okay, next.
Integrity. Being honest, having strong morals. Pretty fundamental.
Absolutely. In life and maybe in learning too. Being honest about where you're at.
Yeah, and your goals. Then ingenious.
Ingenious. Clever, original, inventive.
The examples were good, finding a solution with limited resources. Kind of inspiring.
It is. Makes you think, how can we be more ingenious with language learning? Finding creative practice methods, maybe.
Like using games or finding unique ways to immerse yourself. Okay, Wednesday. Multitask. Compassion and pinnacle.
Multitask. Doing multiple things at once.
Which I might be doing right now. Though Tiffany does point out it can actually decrease productivity sometimes.
Yeah, the research often backs that up. It feels efficient, but your focus gets split.
True. And maybe there's a cultural angle here too. Some cultures value multitasking more.
Possibly. It could influence how people approach learning tasks as well. Single focus versus juggling different things.
Interesting. Next, compassion.
Deep sympathy for others, especially when they're suffering.
Tafani shared a personal story about developing compassion for homeless people she saw in Korea. That made it really powerful.
Those personal stories stick with you, don't they?
They do. It shows language isn't just words. It's about human connection, understanding experiences.
Well said. And the last one for Wednesday.
Pinnacle. The highest point, the peak of success.
Ah, like reaching the pinnacle of your career.
Exactly. Or a company at its pinnacle. It paints a clear picture. So what's the language learning pinnacle for you?
Oh, good question. Maybe fluency for some. For others, maybe giving a presentation confidently.
Or just having a deep conversation with someone from another culture.
Right. Defining your own pinnacle is probably key. Keeps you motivated.
Okay, Thursday, we've got efficiency, empower, strategic, and a bonus. Keep your chin up.
Efficiency. Getting stuff done without wasting time or effort.
Something I'm always chasing.
Me too. In learning, it's about finding the smartest path, right? Not just working harder. Using the right techniques, the right resources for you.
Exactly. Then empower. Giving power or authority.
Like empowering employees.
Yeah, and Tafani connects it to empowering English learners, which is kind of what we're aiming for here too.
Definitely. How does language itself empower people, do you think?
Well, it gives you a voice, right? Access to information, connection globally. It lets you participate more fully.
Absolutely. It unlocks doors.
Yeah.
Okay, the bonus expression.
Keep your chin up. Stay positive, hopeful.
Ah, classic.
The basketball player's story she told was a good visual for it. It's such a useful, common phrase.
It is, and those simple idioms often carry a lot of cultural feeling, don't they? Shared experience.
Last one for Thursday, strategic.
Relating to long-term plans, how to achieve goals.
Yeah, it links right back to having a strategy for your language learning, a roadmap.
Exactly. Setting goals, figuring out the steps, adjusting as you go. Being intentional.
Okay, Friday, we get deep work, then some slang, salty, straight fire, and finally, go the extra mile.
Deep work, that focused concentration time.
Yes, uninterrupted work on something demanding. Definitely need more of that.
It's about carving out that dedicated time for learning. No distractions. Helps things stick better.
Totally. Okay, slang time, salty.
Salty, feeling bitter, angry, maybe a bit resentful.
Yeah, the example of one friend getting a gift and the other not. Perfect illustration. Good to know these informal words.
Oh, definitely. Slang is key to understanding everyday natural English, how people really talk.
And it changes so fast.
It does. It shows how language lives and breathes. Okay, next.
Straight fire, meaning really good, cool, awesome.
Like her mom's cooking example.
Yes, my mom's cooking is straight fire too.
Nice. These words add flavor, don't they?
Yeah.
Using them right helps you connect.
For sure. And Friday wraps up with go the extra mile.
Doing more than is required or expected.
Tafani's example was her own dedication to her students, going beyond just the lessons.
Right. And in learning, it's about that extra effort, isn't it? An extra 15 minutes practice, finding one more resource.
Those little extras add up.
They really do.
Saturday, more slang. Sus, snitch, and shook.
Sus. Short for suspicious or suspect. Shady.
Yeah, you hear it a lot online, especially. That seems kind of sus.
Exactly. Its use in gaming and online communities really boosted it. Shows how tech shapes language.
Then snitch.
Someone who tells on others. A tattletale.
The classroom example, she used kids talking when the teacher leaves, so relatable.
We all knew one, right? It's got strong social feelings attached to it.
Definitely. Okay, last one for Saturday. Shook.
Shook, meaning really surprised, maybe a bit scared or startled. Astonished.
The karaoke story about her friend suddenly singing amazingly well, hilarious, made the meaning crystal clear.
Yeah, personal stories make these words so much more memorable. You feel the emotion.
Okay, wow, we're really covering ground. There's a second Sunday, too.
More words.
Yep. Snappy, screaming, swag, snack, slay, and one more formal one, catalyst.
Okay, snappy, quick-witted, sharp comebacks.
Exactly. The dialogue example about the brown sweater response was perfect.
Right, that's sharp, witty, sometimes slightly cutting humor.
Then screaming, which doesn't mean literally screaming.
No, it means laughing really, really hard, right?
Yes, like when something is hysterically funny, the image of just losing it laughing with a friend.
Got it. Another informal meaning that's different from the literal one. Good to know.
Next, swag.
Ah, swag. Usually about guys, right?
Yeah.
Style, confidence, coolness.
Yeah, like walking with a certain confidence. Though she does mention women can have swag too. It's that aura.
Self-assuredness. Makes sense.
Okay, then snack. S-N-A-C-K.
Not food this time.
Nope. Slang for a very attractive person, someone who looks good.
Ah, okay. Like, he's a snack or she's a snack.
Exactly. Tefani mentioned using it casually with friends. Definitely informal.
Good to know the context for that one. Use with care.
For sure. Then slay.
Slay, meaning doing something amazingly well or looking incredible.
Right, like she slayed that presentation or he slayed on the red carpet.
Powerful word. Concise way to show admiration.
And the last one for this Sunday. Catalyst.
Catalyst. Something that causes an event or sparks a change. More formal.
Yeah, like an innovation being a catalyst for growth or a policy being a catalyst for reform. Useful word for describing cause and effect.
It allows for more nuanced discussion, understanding the drivers behind things.
Okay, phew. Now the video shifts into common expressions, idioms.
Ah, the fun stuff.
First up, cut to the chase.
Get to the point. Be direct.
Exactly, which is kind of what we're doing here, right?
Roughly. Avoid the waffle.
Then go the extra mile. We touched on this word earlier.
Right, doing more than expected, showing extra effort.
Demonstrates dedication, often leads to good things. Have a change of heart.
Change your mind or opinion about something.
The ice cream example she gave was a simple way to remember it. Our views can change.
Happens all the time. New info, new experiences.
Be in hot water.
Ooh, means be in trouble, facing negative consequences.
The story about the boys caught making a mess in the kitchen. So vivid.
Yeah, stories really help idioms stick. You remember the context?
Next, bite off more than one can chew.
Take on too much responsibility, more than you can handle.
Guilty. I think many of us do that sometimes.
Definitely. A good reminder to be realistic about what we commit to.
Burn the midnight oil.
Work very late into the night, studying hard, finishing a project.
Feels a bit old-fashioned with the oil lamp idea, but the meaning is still totally relevant.
Absolutely. Speaks of dedication, maybe working under pressure.
Burn bridges.
Damage a relationship, often permanently, especially professional ones.
Yeah. The job example highlighted the potential seriousness. Don't burn your bridges.
Good advice. Maintain those connections.
Think outside the box.
Think creatively, unconventionally. Find new solutions. Essential skill. Look beyond the obvious.
Keep someone in the loop.
Keep them informed, updated on progress or information. Crucial for teamwork, right? Making sure everyone knows what's going on.
Definitely. Okay, get the ball rolling.
Start something. Initiate a process or activity.
Sometimes just starting is the hardest part. Overcoming that initial inertia.
True. Let's get the ball rolling.
Be swamped.
Be extremely busy, overwhelmed with work or tasks.
A feeling many of us know well. I'm totally swamped this week.
Too much on your plate.
Be on board.
Agree with an idea, plan, or proposal. Support it. Important for collaboration, getting everyone aligned.
Drop the ball.
Make a mistake, fail to do something important, mess up. Uh-oh. Like missing a deadline or forgetting something crucial.
The example of forgetting to post the lesson was relatable. We all drop the ball sometimes.
We do. It happens.
And the last expression, get up to speed.
Learn the necessary information about something, often something new. Become current.
Like when you join a new project or start using new software, you need to get up to speed.
Exactly. It's that process of learning and becoming proficient.
Wow. Okay, that was a lot. We've gone through a massive range of words and phrases from that one video.
Seriously, from basic vocab like prioritize to slang like sus and idioms like burn the midnight oil.
It really covers the spectrum, doesn't it? It's a fantastic snapshot for anyone wanting their English to sound more, well, natural.
Absolutely. It shows the richness of the language you need,
Right.
the formal stuff and the informal stuff for real communication.
So remember our mission, to help you grab the practical skills quickly from this source.
And I think we've pulled out the key meanings and contexts.
Yeah, the goal isn't necessarily to memorize every single one right now. It's more about understanding what they mean and, crucially, how they're used.
Exactly. Understanding the context is key. So maybe take a second now, think back. Which of those words or expressions kind of jumped out at you?
Good exercise. Which ones felt like something you could actually imagine yourself saying?
Right. Which ones resonated?
That's a great point. So maybe here's a final thought to leave you with.
Okay.
What might happen if you actively tried to use just one, or maybe two of these new phrases in your English conversations this week?
How might it change things?
Yeah, how might it affect your confidence or maybe how you connect with the person you're talking to? Give it a shot. Experiment a little. See what happens.
Ever feel like you're just drowning in information? It's coming at us constantly.
Yeah, it's a lot. And figuring out what actually matters, what's essential.
That's the challenge. And that's really what this deep dive is for, to give you those key insights without the overwhelm, tailored for you.
Exactly. Think of it like your shortcut. You gave us a great source, and we're here to pull out the useful stuff, the knowledge you can actually use.
And today's source is, honestly, it's a gold mine if you're working on your English fluency. You shared a YouTube video from Speak English with Tiffany, and wow, it's packed, like over 45 words and expressions.
Yeah, a real mix, some core vocabulary, but also common phrases, even slang, things to make your English sound, more natural.
So our mission today, it's pretty simple, really.
Yeah, boil it down.
Distill all that into practical language skills you can use, like right away.
We want you walking away with tools, things you can actually put into practice.
Okay, let's get into it.
Right.
The video has this neat structure using days of the week.
Right.
Tiffany starts with Sunday, and the first word is procrastination. Something I definitely know a thing or two about. Putting things off.
Oh, absolutely. We all do. She defines it as, delaying tasks. And it makes you think, especially as language learners, how often do we put off practicing speaking, maybe?
That's a good point. Or maybe studying that grammar point we find tricky.
Exactly. And are there cultural differences here? Are some places more okay with putting things off than others? It's interesting.
That is fascinating. Okay, so on Sunday, the next word is empathy.
Understanding and sharing feelings.
Yeah. And this one really resonates with me personally. Learning another language, it kind of forces you to see things differently, doesn't it?
It really does. You start to connect more deeply maybe with people who are also struggling to communicate sometimes.
How does that work, though? How does learning a language actually build empathy?
Well, think about it. You're not just translating words, are you?
You're trying to figure out intent, cultural context, emotion behind the words.
Yeah.
You have to navigate misunderstandings.
Right, bridge those gaps.
Exactly. And that whole process, that effort to connect despite the barriers, it inherently builds that empathetic muscle,
Makes sense. Okay, moving to Monday, we get prioritize, gratitude, and fortitude.
3 big ones, yeah.
Prioritize ordering tasks by importance. The video used good examples like juggling family calls, work projects, cooking dinner.
That constant balancing act.
It really is.
And it's so fundamental for language learning too, right? You have to decide, focus on vocab today, grammar, pronunciation.
You can't do everything at once.
Nope. And people prioritize differently based on their goals or how they learn best.
True. Then, gratitude. That feeling of appreciation. Tiffany told a nice story about a friend bringing her soup when she was sick.
Yeah, that makes it really concrete, doesn't it? Not just an abstract idea.
Totally.
And showing gratitude in another language, it's more than just manners.
How so? Well, it connects you to the culture's values. Different cultures express thanks in unique ways. Learning those nuances deepens your understanding of the language and the people.
Ah, good point. Okay, Monday's last word. Fortitude.
Courage when things are tough, pain or adversity.
The examples were about dealing with challenges, standing up for what's right.
Yeah.
It's about resilience, really.
Definitely. And language learning, let's be honest, it has its tough spots, plateaus, setbacks.
Oh, yeah.
Fortitude isn't just gritting your teeth and pushing through. It's also about seeing those challenges as chances to grow, keeping motivated even when it feels slow.
I like that framing. Okay, Tuesday rolls around with delegate, integrity, and ingenious.
Right.
Delegate, giving responsibility to someone else. Something I need to get better at. I tend to try and do it all.
Yeah. It's key for teamwork, leadership. But also, think about how we delegate in our own learning.
What do you mean?
Like, do we ask for help from a tutor, a language partner? Do we use apps or tools effectively, letting them handle some parts of the process?
Interesting angle. Okay, next is integrity.
Being honest, having strong morals.
Pretty straightforward, but crucial. And I think it applies to learning, too, being honest about where you are, what you need to work on.
Absolutely. And then ingenious.
Clever, inventive. I like the examples about finding solutions even with limited resources.
Yeah, very inspiring. Makes you think, how can we be more ingenious with language learning? Creative practice methods, finding ways to immerse yourself even if you can't travel.
Good challenge. Wednesday brings multitask, compassion, and pinnacle.
Okay.
Multitask, doing many things at once, like I probably am right now, talking and thinking and checking notes.
Though Tiffany did point out it's often not as efficient as we think.
True. Focus can suffer.
And cultures view multitasking differently too, don't they? Some value it highly, others prefer focusing on one thing at a time.
Does that affect how we approach learning, you think? Our cultural background?
Could do. It's worth considering. Okay, then compassion.
Deep sympathy for others' suffering. Tiffany shared a personal story about seeing homelessness in Korea.
Yeah, that made it powerful.
It really did. Much more than just a definition.
Those personal touches, they remind you language isn't just data transfer. It's about human connection, understanding experiences.
Well said. And Wednesday finishes with pinnacle.
The highest point. Success.
Like reaching the pinnacle of your career or a company being at its pinnacle. It's a clear image. What about for language learning? What's the pinnacle there?
Ooh, good question. It's probably different for everyone, isn't it?
I guess so.
For some, it might be near native fluency. For others, maybe giving a presentation confidently, or just having a really deep conversation with someone from another culture.
So defining your own pinnacle is important.
Well, it's a great motivator.
Okay, Thursday, we have efficiency, empower, strategic, and a bonus. Keep your chin up.
Lots for Thursday.
Efficiency first, getting things done with minimum wasted effort. Always chasing that.
Me too. In learning, it means finding the smartest way, not just the hardest, using the right techniques, the right resources for you.
Then empower, giving power or authority. Tiffany links it to empowering English learners.
Which is what we hope to do too.
Exactly. How does language itself empower people, do you think?
Oh, massively. It's the key to communication, obviously, but also connection, access to information, jobs.
Right.
Mastering a language lets you participate more fully in the world, express your own ideas, understand others better. It's huge.
Definitely. And the bonus phrase, keep your chin up.
Stay positive.
Such a common, useful one. The basketball player's story in the video is a good way to remember it.
It is. And these simple idioms, they often carry a lot of shared cultural understanding, don't they? Reflecting common experiences.
Yeah. Okay, last one for Thursday. Strategic.
Relating to long-term goals and plans.
This ties right back to what you said about prioritizing, having a plan for your language journey.
Exactly. A strategic approach means clear goals, steps to reach them, and crucially, being willing to adjust the plan if needed, being intentional.
Right. Intentional learning. Love that.
Yeah.
Friday, we get deep work and then some fun slang. Salty, straight fire, plus go the extra mile.
Good mix again.
Deep work. Focused, uninterrupted work. If only. I need more of that.
We probably all do. For learning, it means blocking out time, no distractions. That's when the real processing and retention happen.
Makes sense. Okay, slang time. Salty.
Feeling bitter, angry, maybe a bit resentful.
The example about the friend getting a gift when another didn't. Perfect illustration. Good to know these informal terms.
Definitely. Understanding slang helps you get everyday natural English, gives you insight into how people really talk.
And how it changes, too.
Yeah, slang evolves so fast, especially online. It differs between groups, too.
Okay, next slang. Straight fire.
Means really good, awesome, cool.
Like her mom's cooking. I related to that one. My mom's cooking is straight fire, too.
Haha. Yeah, these terms add energy to the language. Using them right helps you connect.
And Friday finishes with go the extra mile.
Doing more than expected.
Tiffany's own work with her students is a great example she used.
It is. And it applies to learning too, doesn't it? That extra 15 minutes of practice, finding one more article to read.
Those little extras add up.
They really can make a difference over time.
Okay, Saturday's all slang. Sus, snitch, and shook.
Getting into the really informal stuff now.
Sus, short for suspicious or suspect, shady.
Yeah, very common now, especially online, like in gaming.
Right. It shows how tech and trends shape language.
Absolutely. Then a snitch.
Someone who tells on others. The classroom example, kids talking, one tells the teacher. So relatable.
Huh. Yeah, we've all encountered that. It's a word with strong negative feelings attached.
Definitely need to understand the vibe before using it.
For sure. And finally for Saturday, shook.
Feeling really surprised, maybe a bit stunned, or even scared.
The karaoke story she told about her friend suddenly singing amazingly well.
Hilarious. And it perfectly captures that feeling of being totally taken aback.
Personal stories just make these stick, don't they? You feel the emotion.
Okay, wow. That was the first week. We've got another Sunday's worth.
Let's keep going. Second Sunday. Snappy, screaming, swag, snack, slay, and catalyst.
Snappy, quick-witted, sharp comebacks.
Like that brown sweater example in the dialogue she gave.
Yeah, that was definitely snappy. A bit sharp, maybe humorous.
Captures that tone perfectly. Interesting how humor works in language.
Then screaming, which doesn't mean yelling here.
No, it means laughing really, really hard.
Like when you see a hilarious meme or your friend tells a great joke and you just lose it.
Exactly. It's a good reminder that words can have very different informal meanings. Gotta know the context.
True. Okay, swag.
Sense of style, confidence, usually used for guys, but not always.
Kind of an aura, right?
Yeah, like they own the place. Self-assuredness and how they look and act.
Next up, snack.
Means a good-looking person. Definitely slang.
Tefani mentioned using it casually with friends. You need to know your audience with this one.
Oh, absolutely. Very informal subjective, used with care.
Right. Then slay.
It means doing something amazingly well or looking incredible.
Like slaying a presentation or slaying on the red carpet.
Yeah, it's a really positive, strong word for achievement or appearance. Very current.
And the last one for this Sunday, a bit more formal. Catalyst.
Something that causes an event or change.
The examples were about innovation, policy changes. A useful word for analysis.
Definitely. It helps you talk about the why behind things, the driving forces, allows for more sophisticated discussion.
Okay, deep breath. Now, the video shifted gears into common expressions or idioms. Week 3, essentially.
Right, those phrases where the meaning isn't obvious from the individual words.
Exactly. First one, cut to the chase.
Get to the main point. Skip the fluff.
Which is kind of what we're trying to do here. Be direct.
Yes, it's about efficiency and communication.
And go the extra mile. We touched on this earlier.
Yep. Doing more than is required or expected shows dedication.
Next, have a change of heart.
Change your mind or opinion about something. The ice cream example was fun.
It was. Shows how our views can shift.
Exactly. With new info or experiences.
Be in hot water.
Be in trouble.
That story about the kids making a mess in the kitchen, so vivid, you immediately get the meaning.
Stories are great for locking in idioms.
Totally. Bite off more than one can chew.
Take on too much responsibility, more than you can handle.
Guilty. I think many of us do that sometimes.
It's a good reminder to be realistic about what we can manage. Avoid overcommitment.
Okay, burn the midnight oil.
Work very late into the night.
Feels a bit old-fashioned with the oil lamp idea, but the meaning is still totally relevant today. Studying late, working late.
It speaks to that dedication, maybe working under pressure.
Then burn bridges.
Damage a relationship, often permanently.
The example about leaving a job on bad terms really highlights the potential consequences.
Yeah, it's about the importance of maintaining connections, not ruining them.
Important advice. Think outside the box.
Think creatively, unconventionally.
Essential for solving problems, right? In any field.
Definitely. Look beyond the obvious. Find new solutions.
Keep someone in the loop.
Keep them informed, updated.
So important for teamwork, projects, making sure everyone knows what's going on.
Right? Keeps everyone aligned.
Get the ball rolling.
Start something. Initiate a process.
Sometimes just starting is the hardest part, isn't it?
It really is. Overcoming that initial inertia.
Okay, be swamped.
Be incredibly busy, overwhelmed with work.
A feeling many of us know well.
Unfortunately, yes. Too many tasks, not enough time.
Be on board.
Agree with an idea or plan. Support it.
Important for getting projects moving, getting consensus.
Signifies agreement, buy-in.
Drop the ball.
Make a mistake, fail to do something important, mess up.
The example of forgetting to post the lesson was relatable. We all drop the ball sometimes.
True. It highlights messing up responsibilities or expectations.
And the last expression. Get up to speed.
Learn the necessary information about something new. Become proficient.
Like learning new software or catching up after being away. Very practical.
Yeah, it's about that learning curve, getting familiar with something.
Wow. Okay, we have covered a lot of ground there.
We really have. That video was packed.
From basic vocab to really current slang and then all those useful idioms.
Okay.
It's an amazing collection if you want your English to sound more natural.
Absolutely. It shows just how rich English is, right? You need both the formal words and the informal bits for real communication.
So our mission was to help you grab the practical stuff quickly.
Yeah, the essentials.
And I think we've pulled out the key meanings, the contexts. The goal isn't just memorizing lists, right?
Not at all. It's about understanding how they're used, seeing them in action.
So maybe take a moment now and think back. Which of these words or phrases kind of jumped out at you?
Yeah, which ones felt relevant? Or maybe useful for situations you encounter? Which ones could you maybe try using?
That's the key. So here's something to chew on.
Okay.
How might actively trying to use even just one, maybe two of these new words or phrases this week. How might that actually change how confident you feel speaking English?
Ooh, interesting question. How might it affect your interactions?
Yeah, give it a shot. Experiment a little and just see what happens.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take interesting stuff you send us and we really dig into it to pull out the key ideas, make you instantly clued in.
Yeah, to get you right up to speed.
Exactly. So today, we've got a great resource one of you shared. It's a transcript from a YouTube video. Speak English with Tiffany, I think.
That's the one. It's called 10 Techniques to Enhance Your English Fluency.
Right. And our mission today, our deep dive, is to really get under the hood of these techniques. We want to unpack why they work, and
give you some really practical things you can actually do to boost your English speaking.
Absolutely. There are 10 techniques here, quite a list. So let's jump right in.
Okay. It's interesting because, well, a lot of these might seem like common sense on the surface, right? But the transcript does dig a bit deeper, gives reasons, examples. It makes them relatable.
Yeah, and that's what we want to do too. Go even further, maybe look at how they work and what you can really expect if you try them.
Sounds good. So technique number 1, listening.
Listening. Okay, so right away you might be thinking, hang on, how does listening make my speaking better? Seems indirect.
It does seem a bit indirect, yeah.
Yeah.
But the core idea here is that good listening isn't passive. You're not just letting sound wash over you. It's like active engagement. You're trying to decode meaning, understand the structure.
You're building up the ingredients for speaking, basically.
That's a great way to put it, yeah.
Yeah.
And the transcript points out a few key benefits of doing this actively.
First one is comprehension, right? Improving that. The analogy in the transcript is about babies.
Oh, yeah, how they just listen and listen for ages before they even try to talk.
Exactly. They're building this sort of mental map of the language first.
Which makes total sense. You can't really produce language effectively if you don't fundamentally get it.
Right. And it's not just words, it's accents too. Different ways people speak English.
And those everyday phrases, colloquialisms that you don't find in formal textbooks. Listening helps you pick those up.
Okay, so comprehension is key. Then there's expanding your usable vocabulary. That's the second benefit.
Usable is the important word there. It's about hearing words in, current real-life contexts.
Not just learning words from a list that might sound a bit stiff or outdated.
Exactly. You might know the definition, but hearing it in a movie or on the news or just in conversation, that gives you the feel for the word.
Yeah, the context, the nuance. How it fits naturally.
And the third thing listening helps with, according to the transcript, is pronunciation and intonation.
Intonation, that's like the music of the language, right? The rise and fall.
Yeah, exactly. How your voice goes up and down to add meaning or emotion. The idea is, by hearing native speakers a lot, you start to absorb these patterns almost subconsciously.
There's a personal story in there, isn't there? About learning Korean pronunciation.
Yeah, just by really focusing on listening.
It shows how you can train your ear, really. That constant exposure helps you just absorb the right sounds, the rhythm. It becomes intuitive. Okay, so listening, crucial foundation. Makes sense. Technique number 2 then, speaking practice.
Right, the active part. This seems obvious, maybe?
Yeah.
You have to actually speak.
Well, yes, but there are layers to it. It's about actually jumping into conversations, trying to get your thoughts out.
You need to produce the language, not just consume it. And the transcript highlights 3 main things here. Boosting confidence, honing your actual communication skills, and interestingly, broadening cultural understanding.
Let's talk confidence first. The transcript mentions finding a practice partner. That seems key.
Definitely. Online, or maybe a local group. The host in the video mentions her own academy, like thousands of students practicing together.
It's about getting over that initial hump, isn't it? That fear of making mistakes.
Oh, absolutely. The anxiety is real for so many learners. But regular practice, especially if it feels safe and supportive, it chips away at that fear, builds self-belief.
And then the oral communication skills. It's not just saying words clearly. The transcript mentions learning to adjust based on reactions.
Yeah, like improving your fluency, the flow and coherence making sense.
And just being more effective overall. You watch how people respond and you adjust. It's like a feedback loop.
That's a really good point. It's interactive. Speaking isn't just sending information out. It's seeing if it lands, and then maybe rephrasing or clarifying.
And the last point under speaking practice was cultural awareness. How does that fit in?
Well, the transcript gives an example of students from all over Ghana, Japan, Haiti, Brazil interacting.
Oh.
When you talk to people with different backgrounds, different first languages, you learn about different communication styles, different assumptions. It makes you more adaptable.
Right. More prepared to talk to anyone, really.
Oh.
Okay, moving on. Technique 3, vocabulary acquisition. Always a big one.
Yeah, learning words. But it's more than just memorizing lists, as the transcript points out.
It breaks it down into, 3 parts? Exposure, context, and practice.
Exactly. First, just getting exposed consistently. Reading, listening, just engaging with English materials regularly.
Makes sense. The more you see or hear a word,
the more likely it is to stick. But, crucially, the second part is contextual understanding.
so not just the dictionary definition.
Right. Grasping how it's actually used. The transcript warns against relying only on book definitions. They can miss the everyday feel.
Like the example of watching movies, you see how characters use words in specific situations.
Precisely. You get the situation, the tone, the implication. Much richer than just a definition.
And then the third part is active practice, actually using the new words yourself.
Yeah, in your own speaking and writing, that's what really cements it. There's another personal story there, isn't there? About memorizing Korean words for a test.
And then forgetting them because they weren't used. Oh yeah, that hits home.
It really does. You've got to activate the vocabulary. Use it or lose it, basically.
Okay, which leads nicely into technique number 4, contextual learning. Learning in context.
Yeah, this builds directly on that last point. It's about embedding the learning in real situations, meaningful contexts.
Why is that so powerful? The transcript mentions memory links.
Exactly. When you learn something linked to a specific situation or a conversation or even an emotion, your brain creates more pathways to recall it. It's not just an isolated fact.
It sticks better. And the transcript pushes for practical application, right? Like use new words immediately.
Yeah, that suggestion to maybe record a quick video of yourself talking about your day using a new word you learned, that's a great concrete tip.
Forces you to actually integrate it, makes it a tool, not just an abstract idea.
And context also helps you get the deeper stuff, the nuances, those idiomatic expressions.
The quirky phrases that don't translate word for word.
And the cultural bits hidden in the language. Again, there's that mention of understanding Korean idioms properly only through seeing them used in context.
Yeah, getting that intuitive grasp, that's real fluency, isn't it?
It really is. Understanding the implied meaning, not just the literal words.
Okay, technique 5 is reading. Seems maybe less direct for speaking fluency, but the transcript argues it's crucial.
Absolutely crucial. Obvious benefit. More vocabulary exposure, seeing words and phrases.
Right.
But maybe less obvious is how it helps you internalize grammar and sentence structure, almost without trying.
That's interesting. So not necessarily studying grammar rules explicitly.
Not always, no. The transcript suggests that just by reading a lot of well-written English, your brain starts to pick up the patterns. Implicit learning.
You just get a feel for what sounds right.
Exactly. That feeling often comes from all the reading you've done. You've seen those structures again and again.
And of course, reading boosts your comprehension overall.
Which naturally helps you understand spoken English faster and respond more quickly in conversations. And it all connects.
Makes sense. Okay, number 6, writing. Flipping from input to output again.
Yeah, actively producing written English. Focusing on grammar, word choice, structure.
The transcript links this back to reading, doesn't it? Like the grammar you absorb from reading helps you write more accurately.
It does. Writing forces you to consciously apply those patterns you've been absorbing. It reinforces them.
And there was a practical tip about writing about your day as a way to organize thoughts for speaking later.
Yeah, like a rehearsal. Writing forces you to structure your ideas logically. Choose words carefully.
Skills that transfer directly to speaking more fluently and coherently.
Exactly. Plus, it helps with accuracy, spelling, punctuation, the mechanics of the language.
Got it. Now, technique 7 is really interesting. Cultural integration.
Immersing yourself in the culture. This goes beyond just the language itself.
Yeah, it's often overlooked, isn't it? But the transcript argues it's super valuable for deeper fluency, understanding customs, norms.
It provides context for why people say things the way they do. There's that clever analogy in the transcript about the Subway sandwich shop.
Oh yeah, how ordering reflects American individualism. That was smart.
It shows how cultural values seep into everyday interactions, even ordering lunch.
Understanding that stuff helps avoid miscommunication, right?
Definitely. And helps you interpret things correctly, like the anecdote about Korean students just saying fine and not knowing how to elaborate.
Because the cultural expectation is different.
Right. And the transcript suggests engaging with the culture online too, maybe through hobbies, not just language learning sites.
Yeah, join group about cooking or gaming or whatever you're into, but in English.
It makes it more natural, less like studying. You connect with people over shared interests.
Okay, technique 8. Language exchanges. Talking directly with native speakers or other learners.
This is pure gold for practice. Real-time, authentic conversation.
Even talking with other learners helps.
It can, yeah. Especially if they're maybe a little ahead of you. It's still valuable practice in a low-pressure way.
And it's not just language, it's cultural exchange too, isn't it? Learning about each other's lives.
Yeah, exactly. The transcript mentions the host's own experience learning Korean that way. It's mutual learning.
Everyone benefits, language skills improve, understanding grows.
Definitely.
All right, number 9, personalized learning strategies. Tailoring things to you.
This is so important. No single method works for everyone. Right?
Yeah, we all learn differently.
So, figuring out what you enjoy, what fits your style, your schedule. That's key for sticking with
The
it.
transcript gives examples like using podcasts if you like listening, or even singing along to songs.
Yeah, making it fun, making it fit your life, finding a study routine that works for you, not against you.
Because if you enjoy it, you'll keep doing it. Motivation stays higher.
Absolutely. That's why the anecdote about learning Korean by watching cooking shows or comedy works. It taps into personal interests. Learning becomes almost indirect.
Okay, last one. Technique 10. Patience and perseverance.
Oh, yes. Maybe the most important one, even though it's not an activity.
It's the mindset, isn't it?
Totally. Language learning is a marathon, not a sprint. It takes time. There will be bumps in the road.
Plateaus where you feel stuck, moments of frustration.
Oh, yeah. Being patient with yourself and just keeping going, persevering, that's essential.
The transcript has a nice, encouraging message about that, about believing in yourself and seeing it through.
It's about having that growth mindset, knowing you can improve, and that challenges are just part of the process.
Okay, wow. So that's the 10 techniques. Listening, speaking practice, vocabulary acquisition, contextual learning, reading, writing, cultural integration, language exchanges, personalized strategies, and finally, patience and perseverance.
Quite a comprehensive list, all pulled from that Speak English with Tiffany transcripts you shared with us.
Yeah, thanks again for sending that in. These aren't just random ideas, they come directly from that source.
So we really hope you, listening, can take a moment to think about these. Which ones kind of clicked for you?
Yeah, which ones feel like they might fit your style or address a challenge you're facing right now? Maybe pick 1 or 2 to focus on.
Which brings us to a final thought to leave you with.
How could you maybe combine some of these techniques? Could that create an even bigger boost to your fluency?
And maybe more immediately. What's one small, really concrete step you could take, like today or tomorrow, to put just one of these ideas into practice? Just one small thing to start. All right, get ready, because we're going deep into some really cool English expressions.
Yeah.
We're talking about the kind of stuff from our source, advanced everyday English, that, can really take your communication skills to the next level.
I think what's really neat about this particular collection is that it's not just about, trying to sound impressive or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's more about understanding the subtle nuances of the language and how, these expressions can really add depth and richness and even a touch of humor to your conversations.
Humor. Okay, now we're talking. So is this guide like a secret decoder ring for the English language?
You could say that, yeah. Take the phrase off the record, for example. Most people, they think it just means confidentiality, but there's so much more to it than that. I mean, if you really think about it, it can create, some pretty interesting dynamics.
Interesting.
Especially when you're talking about power and trust.
Okay, so how does off the record become about power dynamics?
Well, just think about this. The source gives an example of a mortgage consultant who advises a client to go to their own bank for better interest rates.
Okay.
But only off the record. Now, why would they do that? Are they genuinely trying to help the client? Or is there something else going on there?
Right.
Maybe a way to undermine their own company.
I mean, that's a good point. Suddenly it just gets a lot more complicated.
It does, yeah.
Who benefits the most from this kind of off-the-record advice?
Right.
Is it genuine goodwill, or is it a power play?
Yeah. And that's what I think makes these advanced expressions so interesting.
Okay.
They operate on multiple levels.
Right.
And they can reveal a lot about the speaker's intentions.
This is like linguistic chess.
It is.
All right, this deep dive is blowing my mind already. But let's move on to a word that I think we often use without fully appreciating it.
Okay.
And that word is outgoing. We all know it describes someone who's, sociable,
Sure.
extroverted.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's more to it than that.
There is a lot more to it. Outgoing can also refer to expenses, right? Like if you're, calculating the outgoing costs on a property.
Right.
Or it can also describe like a departing official.
Interesting.
Like an outgoing president. Picture a job ad. Like they're looking for an outgoing sales assistant.
Yeah.
And then in another situation, picture a town saying farewell to their outgoing president.
Yeah. Wow. Very different situations. It's all about context, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
The same word can completely change its meaning depending on the situation.
Yeah.
So how do we make sure we're using these words correctly?
Well, that's where, continuous learning comes in. Brushing up, as the source calls it.
Right.
It's important, whether it's, language skills or a specific subject or just staying up to date on current events. Brushing up is what keeps our knowledge fresh and relevant.
So it's not about just cramming in all this information and then, calling it a day.
No.
It's about updating, refining what we know.
Yeah.
I like that.
It is, yeah. It's
Yeah.
like a much more sustainable approach.
It really is. Okay.
Yeah.
And speaking of approaches, let's get into the world of touchy subjects
Okay.
and people. We all know someone who's a bit sensitive, right?
Yeah.
Takes criticism personally, gets offended easily.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I'm guessing there's more to this word than just, someone who's easily upset.
There is. The example that the source gives contrasts touchy with thick-skinned.
Okay.
And it suggests a whole spectrum of emotional resilience. We all have different thresholds for what we find, offensive or hurtful.
Right.
And navigating those differences can be tricky.
It's like we're all walking on eggshells sometimes.
Yeah, it is a bit like that.
So is being touchy always a bad thing?
Well, that's a good question. And I think it's one that we can explore further as we, dig into all these expressions.
I like it. Okay, let's shift gears for a minute and talk about something that can be both, comforting and incredibly frustrating.
All right.
Cliches.
Cliches, yes.
Those phrases we've all heard a million times.
A million times, yeah.
They've kind of lost all their meaning. Like I can practically hear a football manager saying, "We gave 110% out there."
Yeah, exactly. Why do they persist? Why do we keep using them?
That's a good question.
I think part of it is that they provide a sense of familiarity
Yeah.
and comfort. It's like a well-worn path in our brains, easy to follow,
Right.
and not very exciting.
So how do we avoid sounding like a broken record? Do we need to ban cliches from our vocabulary?
Well, that's an interesting question. It's one we'll definitely be getting into as we continue this deep dive.
Okay, good.
But first, I want to lay out another really versatile phrase.
Ooh, lay it on me. I like this. Lay out.
Yeah. To lay out, it can mean, presenting information clearly.
Right.
Like laying out proposals in a booklet.
Makes sense.
It can also describe designing a space, like laying out a garden.
Okay.
And of course, it can also mean, reluctantly spending money.
Oh, I've been there.
Like when you have to lay out a small fortune for unexpected car repairs.
Oh, tell me about it. So laying out can be about strategic planning, but also, the begrudging act of spending money you weren't planning on spending.
Yeah, exactly. It covers quite a lot.
Very adaptable phrase.
It is.
Sometimes I feel like a bit of a dog's body, especially in, the grand scheme of things.
Oh, the dog's body, yeah.
Running around doing those little tasks that nobody else wants to do.
Well, our source actually has this fascinating story about Ted Davies.
Okay.
Now, he started his career as a football club. Dog's body, cleaning boots, doing odd jobs.
Interesting.
Now,
Right.
Ted, he didn't let his, humble beginnings define him.
Good for him.
He used those experiences to learn and grow,
Right.
eventually becoming a successful football manager.
Wow.
It's a good reminder. We shouldn't underestimate the value of those, even those seemingly insignificant tasks.
That's inspiring, actually. Like they were almost laying the foundation for his, later success. Maybe we shouldn't dismiss the dog's body tasks so quickly.
No, I don't think we should.
Hidden opportunities there.
All right, well, let's talk about something that is so crucial in the world of business.
Okay.
Breaking even.
Breaking even.
Yeah.
The holy grail. Right.
It is for a lot of businesses, yeah.
It's that moment when your income matches your expenses.
Exactly. The source gives an example of a business hoping to break even in its first year,
Okay.
which, can be a tall order. It signifies stability.
Right.
And then, once you've achieved that balance, then you can start thinking about growth and expansion.
Yeah. It's like you've built a solid foundation.
Yeah.
Now you can add a few floors, but what happens when we're so busy, building that we end up with a huge backlog.
Oh, the dreaded backlog. Yes,
It can really feel overwhelming,
it can.
whether it's paperwork or, patients waiting to see the doctor or even just our own to-do list. It never seems to end.
That's true.
So backlogs can be everywhere, not just at work.
They really can.
But are they always a bad thing?
Well, it depends. They can be a sign that you're in high demand,
Right.
but they could also be a sign that something needs to change.
Okay.
Maybe you need to streamline your processes,
Makes sense.
delegate tasks,
Right.
or even just say no more often.
It's like a wake-up call.
It can be,
We
yeah.
need to reevaluate how we're managing our time.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to another communication skill that I think is often overlooked,
All right.
and that is going beyond just getting the gist of something.
Oh, yeah, getting the gist. I think it's like, reading those spark notes for a book.
Yeah.
You understand the basic plot, but you miss all those nuances.
Right, the character development.
Exactly.
The beautiful language. It's like you're skimming the surface.
Yeah, you are.
You might see a couple of pretty fish,
Right.
but you're missing the whole ecosystem down there. So how do we move beyond getting the gist
Yeah.
and really engage with, the information?
Yeah, that's a really good question. One that I think we should explore a little further as we continue our deep dive into advanced everyday English.
Let's do it.
But first, I think we should shift our attention to something a little more exciting. The world of the up and coming.
Ooh, yes. The up-and-comers. I like that.
Those individuals or those trends that are poised for, greatness. This source gives a great example. Young politicians who are already skilled at, navigating legislation, foreign languages.
Wow. It's like they're already fluent in the language of power.
They are. They're the rising stars.
How do we identify these future leaders?
Well, I think it's a combination of factors.
Okay.
They often possess, a unique blend of talent, vision, and this willingness to challenge the status quo.
It's like they're already writing the next chapter of history
Yeah, they are.
while the current chapter is still being written. But is it always about being bold and disruptive?
That's a great question. And it's one that we will delve into further as we continue our exploration of advanced everyday English.
All right. Sounds good.
So we were talking about these young, up-and-coming politicians.
Right. Those rising stars.
But, up-and-coming isn't just limited to people. It can apply to, trends and ideas as well, things that are, gaining momentum.
Right. On the verge of becoming the next big thing.
Yeah.
So how do we spot these trends? Is there like a secret formula or something?
I wish there was, but I think it's a matter of, paying attention, keeping your finger on the pulse, so to speak. Reading, observing, talking to people, really immersing yourself in the world around you.
So it's about being curious, staying informed.
Exactly. And also, not being afraid to think outside the box, challenge those conventional assumptions.
Okay. So be curious, challenge assumptions.
Yeah.
Got it. Now let's talk about something that can be a little bit tricky.
Right.
The whole idea of, framing our thoughts,
Firming. Yeah.
how we use language to shape the way that people perceive our message.
Because it really does matter, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah. Even those seemingly simple choices like, active versus passive voice or, choosing specific adjectives, it can have a huge impact.
It can. The example that the source gives is the phrase up in the air.
Okay. Up in the air.
On the surface, it just means, uncertain.
Right. Like plans for the weekend that haven't been finalized.
Exactly. But the way we use it can convey a whole range of emotions.
Right.
Imagine like a business owner telling their employees that their jobs are up in the air
Oh, yeah.
because of financial difficulties.
Oh, that takes on a whole new meaning.
It does. It's suddenly loaded with anxiety,
Yeah.
uncertainty.
So it's not just the words themselves.
No.
It's how we use them.
Yeah, it's about creating a mood.
Okay. So much to think about. All right. Another expression that we all encounter from time to time, and it's not always pleasant
Right.
to rub someone up the wrong way.
Oh, yeah. We all know that person.
Ugh, yes. That person who just, I don't know, they just get under your skin.
They do.
And they might not even mean to,
Right.
but something about them, just rubs us the wrong way.
So why is that? Why do some people have that effect?
It's a good question.
Is it a personality clash? A difference in values?
Who knows?
The phrase itself, though, rubbing someone up the wrong way, really does suggest a kind of fundamental incompatibility.
Like, yeah.
Two gears grinding against each other.
Oof, yeah. Creating that friction.
Yeah, and friction can, generate heat.
Ooh, I see where you're going with this.
And rubbing someone up the wrong way, well, that can lead to conflict,
Yeah.
resentment,
Right.
even like a breakdown in communication.
Okay. I'm going to try to be more mindful about how I'm rubbing people.
Yeah.
And speaking of breakdowns, let's talk about that moment when we finally reach our breaking point. You know, the final straw or the last straw.
Yes, it's that one event or action that just pushes us over the edge.
Right. Like, I don't know, you've been putting up with a lot of nonsense.
You have, yeah.
And then suddenly there's this one thing and you just, that's it, I'm done.
Exactly. You've had enough. It's like that old saying, the straw that broke the camel's back.
It really is. So how do we know when we've reached that point?
That's a really good question, an important one too. And I think it's something we should talk about more as we continue our deep dive into advanced everyday English.
Okay, sounds good.
But first, I want to focus on another really crucial communication skill.
Okay.
The ability to weigh up different sides of a situation before making a judgment.
Weigh up. Okay, what does that mean to weigh up something?
Well, it means taking a step back,
Okay.
gathering information,
Right.
analyzing the pros and cons.
Looking at it from different angles.
Exactly. And, considering different perspectives before you actually reach a conclusion.
It's like being a judge. You have to examine all the evidence
You do.
before making a ruling.
And that process of weighing up, it's so important.
I can see that.
Especially in those really complex situations.
Yeah, where there's no easy answer.
Yeah, it's about being thoughtful and deliberate.
Okay, but sometimes even after we've, weighed up all the options, we still need more information.
Right.
So how do we draw out that information from someone who might not be so willing to share?
Drawing out information. That is a skill.
It is, yeah.
You need finesse, you need strategy.
It's like being a detective.
It is a bit like that. You have to ask the right questions.
Right.
Create a sense of trust.
Okay.
Be patient.
Let the information kind of come out naturally.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that's such a valuable skill
It is, yeah.
in all aspects of life, from personal relationships to professional negotiations.
It's about connection.
It is.
All right. Well, sometimes I have to admit I feel completely baffled
Baffled? Yeah.
by certain situations, certain concepts. It's like my brain just hits a wall.
Oh, we've all been there.
Yeah.
Those baffled moments.
What is going on?
Exactly. Like you're just lost in a maze.
Right. With no way out. But is being baffled always a bad thing?
That's a great question. And it's one that we can explore further as we delve deeper into advanced everyday English.
Okay, let's do it.
But first, I think we should shift our focus a little bit and talk about the importance of sometimes keeping a low profile.
Keeping a low profile. Okay, I like that.
Yeah. It's about, blending in.
Right.
Flying under the radar. Avoiding unnecessary attention.
So why would someone choose to do that?
Is it weakness? Or is
Right.
it strategy?
Ooh, good question. So when is it a good idea to keep a low profile?
And when should we, stand up and be noticed?
Those are good questions.
They are. And they're questions we'll definitely address as we continue to explore advanced everyday English.
Okay, good.
But for now, I want to dive into a phrase that I think we all relate to, especially in today's, crazy busy world.
Uh-oh, I know where this is going.
The dreaded backlog.
Oh, the backlog, that ever-growing mountain of stuff.
Yes.
Emails, tasks, just responsibilities.
It never ends, does it?
It really doesn't.
So the question is, are backlogs always a bad thing?
That's a good point.
Hmm.
Maybe they're a sign that we're, in high demand.
Could be.
We're just so popular we can't keep up.
Right, that's one way to look at it. But they could also be a sign that something needs to change.
Right.
Maybe you need to, streamline those processes,
Yeah.
delegate some tasks,
Okay.
or even just say no more often.
It's about setting boundaries.
It is, yeah.
So sometimes a backlog is a wake-up call.
It can be.
We need to reevaluate how we're spending our time.
Absolutely.
Okay, so speaking of reevaluating, let's talk about a concept that's particularly relevant in the business world.
All right.
Breaking even.
Breaking even. Yeah, the dream, right.
For any entrepreneur.
It is. It's that point when your income finally matches your expenses.
Exactly.
No profit, but no loss either.
You're in the black.
You are. The source gives the example of a business hoping to break even in its first year, which, can be a huge accomplishment for a new business. It's a sign of stability.
It is, yeah.
And it kind of lays the groundwork for future success.
So it's like you've weathered the storm.
Yeah.
You've reached safe harbor. But what happens when we face, setbacks,
Right.
challenges. How do we push through and come through those tough times?
That is a really great question, and it's one that I think we should spend some time discussing as we delve deeper into advanced everyday English.
I like it.
But for now, I want to shift our focus to something a little more extraordinary, the realm of the unheard of.
Ooh, okay, the unheard of. I like that.
Yes, it refers to something so rare.
Right.
Or so unusual that it defies our expectations.
Like stumbling upon, I don't know, like a hidden oasis
Yeah,
in
exactly.
the middle of the desert.
It's a moment of surprise,
Yeah.
and wonder. It challenges our assumptions.
Okay. So how do we respond to the unheard of? Do we embrace it? Or do we, kind of cling to those familiar ways of thinking?
I think that's a really interesting question, and honestly, it's one that we could probably spend hours debating.
I bet.
But for now, I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about a phrase that often walks this, fine line between humor and hurt feelings. To give someone stick.
To give someone stick.
Okay. It basically means to tease
Right.
or make fun of someone.
Right.
But it can so easily backfire if you're not careful.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, those friends who they love to poke fun at you,
Yeah.
but sometimes their jokes hit a little too close to home.
They do, yeah.
So how do we master the art of, giving stick without causing offense?
That is the million-dollar question. It all comes down to understanding your audience.
Right.
Their sense of humor, the context.
Right.
Sometimes, a little bit of teasing can strengthen a bond,
Sure.
but sometimes it can create, tension and resentment.
Yeah, it's a delicate dance.
It is.
Okay. Speaking of delicate, let's
Yeah.
talk about a phrase that captures that feeling of being stuck in a state of limbo. Okay.
Up in the air.
Up in the air.
Yes.
That frustrating feeling of not knowing what's going to happen.
Right. The source mentions it in the context of, a business decision
Right.
that hasn't been finalized yet.
Okay.
And it leaves everybody, feeling a bit uncertain, a bit anxious.
Yeah.
It's like waiting for those exam results.
Ugh.
You're on edge. You're anticipating the outcome, but you have no control over it.
You're just stuck
You are.
in this holding pattern.
Yeah.
So is there anything we can do about that?
Well, that's another really good question, and it's one that we can unpack further as we explore advanced everyday English.
Okay. Sounds good.
But for now, I want to shift our attention to another situation that can be equally unsettling,
Okay.
being out of one's depth.
Ooh, I've been there.
It's like being thrown in the deep end
Right.
when you don't know how to swim.
Exactly.
You're surrounded by all these experts,
Yeah.
and they're speaking a language that you barely understand.
Oh, I know that feeling. But is it always a negative experience?
Well, that's a question worth exploring.
Yeah, it is.
But for now, I want to talk about the more practical side of things.
Yeah.
How do we navigate those moments when we feel out of our depth?
Right.
Do we try to, fake it till we make it?
Yeah.
Or do we admit our limitations?
And seek help.
Exactly. Ask for guidance. But, we shouldn't forget about those who are often tasked with those, less glamorous jobs.
Right.
The dog's bodies of the world.
Yeah, the dog's body.
Our source reminds us that even those seemingly, menial roles
Right.
can be such valuable learning experiences.
Okay.
Remember the story of, Ted Davies, the football club dog's body,
Yeah.
who went on to become a successful manager.
Right. He climbed the ladder.
He did. And, those early experiences, even though they weren't glamorous,
Right.
they gave him such a strong foundation
Okay.
and a really deep understanding of, how the organization worked.
It's like those tasks were like secret training missions.
They were preparing him for bigger things.
Yeah. Maybe those less glamorous jobs are just hidden opportunities.
They could be.
All right. Speaking of opportunities, let's talk about a phrase that captures that feeling of finally grasping a complex concept, to get one's head around something.
Yes, that aha moment.
Yes. When the fog clears,
Yeah,
it all makes sense.
it clicks.
It does. So how do we get to that point? Is it intelligence? Persistence?
Yeah.
Just dumb luck?
Another great question, and I think it's one that deserves a lot more discussion.
Okay.
But for now, I want to shift gears a little bit
All right.
and talk about a phrase that really does require a leap of faith
Okay.
to give someone the benefit of the doubt.
Ooh. The benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
Choosing to trust someone, even when you have those nagging doubts.
You do.
So when is it wise to do that?
When should we trust our gut?
Right. Proceed with caution.
Yeah. Our source highlights the importance of, extending trust, but also warns us against being, too naive,
Right.
too easily manipulated. It's like walking a tightrope.
It is.
You need balance, but you also need to be aware of the potential pitfalls.
Okay. Finding that sweet spot. That's tough. Speaking of tricky, let's talk about a phrase that's all about, playful teasing,
All right.
lighthearted banter.
Okay.
To take the mickey out of someone.
Oh, take the mickey.
Yeah, that's a very British expression.
It is.
It's about poking fun,
Yeah.
but not being mean.
No, not malicious.
Right. So how do we walk that line?
Well, like any kind of humor.
Right.
It's about being mindful of the other person's sensitivities.
Right.
And, not crossing that line into bullying or cruelty.
So it's like friendly sparring.
It is.
You're aiming for those playful jabs,
Yeah.
not a knockout punch. All right. Speaking of time, let's talk about a phrase that captures that feeling of being completely absorbed,
Okay.
to lose track of time.
Oh, lose track of time.
We've all been there.
We have.
You're engrossed in a good book.
Right.
Or you're having this amazing conversation.
Yeah.
And then boom, suddenly hours have gone by.
They just disappear.
It's like stepping into a time warp.
It is.
You emerge feeling refreshed, but also kind of disoriented.
Right. Like, where did the time go?
Exactly. But is losing track of time always a good thing? Or is it sometimes a sign that, we're avoiding something important?
That is a really good question. And to be honest, I think it's one that requires a lot more thought and consideration.
Yeah.
But for now, I want to shift our attention to another aspect of communication.
Okay.
The unintended consequences of our actions.
Ooh, the unintended consequences.
Because sometimes, we say or do things
Right.
without fully realizing the impact they might have.
Right. Like those ripple effects.
Exactly. And, the word unwittingly captures that perfectly.
Okay. Unwittingly.
Doing something without realizing the full consequences.
Oh.
The source gives an example of, someone unwittingly leaving another person stranded
Oh, no.
in a really chaotic situation.
Well, that's a tough one.
It is, yeah. A classic case of, good intentions gone wrong.
It really is. So how do we avoid those kinds of, unwitting blunders?
Well, I think that's a question we need to delve into a bit deeper.
Okay.
As we explore the world of advanced everyday English.
Sounds good.
But first, I want to focus on a phrase that really does capture that feeling of finally letting go.
Okay.
Of something that's been weighing on our minds.
Right.
To get something out of one's system.
Get it out of your system. I love that feeling.
Oh, it is such a relief.
It's like purging those, toxic thoughts or emotions
Exactly.
that have been building up.
Just clogging up your mental space.
Yeah. But is it always a good idea to, get things out of our system?
Well, it depends. Our source talks about, the benefits of expressing yourself authentically, but also, it acknowledges that sometimes, it can lead to hurt feelings.
Right.
Or unintended consequences. It's like handling, a really delicate piece of china.
You have to be careful.
You do. You don't want to drop it.
Okay, so it's all about finding that balance.
It is.
All right. Speaking of delicate situations, let's talk about a phrase that captures that feeling of, unease, instability,
Okay.
unrest.
Unrest. Yeah.
We often use that to describe, social or political turmoil.
Right. When tensions are high,
Yeah.
people are on edge. The source actually mentions unrest in the context of, a protest
Okay.
that escalated into violence.
Wow.
It's a reminder that, when frustrations reach a boiling point, things can spiral out of control
Yeah.
pretty quickly.
It's like watching a pot of water
Yeah.
slowly heat up.
Yeah.
And then suddenly boil over. So what can we do to, address those root causes of unrest? Prevent those situations from escalating? Is it dialogue?
It's a really good question. It's a big question.
It is.
And to be honest, it's one that we could probably spend hours unpacking.
Yeah, for sure.
But for now, I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about a phrase that's all about financial abundance. To rake it in.
Oh, rake it in. Okay.
Yeah. Evoke those images of,
Money, money, money.
scooping up piles of cash.
Yeah. A true sign of success.
It is. But is raking it in just about money?
Good question. Or is there more to it?
I think there might be. And I think it's something that we should definitely explore further as we continue our deep dive into advanced everyday English.
Okay, let's do it.
But first, I want to talk about another aspect of language learning.
Okay.
And that is the importance of going beyond just, skimming the surface.
Skimming the surface,
Yeah.
right? Like reading the Wikipedia entry instead of the whole book.
Exactly. The source really does emphasize the importance of engaging with information on a deeper level, delving into those details,
Right.
uncovering the hidden layers of meaning. It's like the difference between looking at a painting from afar
Yeah.
and studying it up close.
You get so much more out of it.
You do. It's about depth of understanding.
That's where the real insights lie.
Oh, why?
Okay, speaking of insights, let's talk about a word that captures that feeling of utter astonishment.
All right.
Gobsmacked.
Gobsmacked.
It's like being struck by lightning.
It is.
You're just speechless.
Yeah. You're in shock.
The source uses gobsmacked to describe someone's reaction to, an unexpected turn of events.
Right.
Pure surprise and disbelief.
Exactly. Like, winning the lottery.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You're happy,
You are.
but you're also in shock.
You are. It's a lot to process. But, let's not forget about those things that were once all the rage,
Right.
but have now kind of faded into obscurity.
Okay.
The source uses the term passé
Passé. Yeah.
to describe something that's just, outdated.
No longer fashionable.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's like, that old song
Yeah.
that you used to love.
Right.
But now it just makes you cringe a little.
Makes you cringe. Passé evokes that sense of nostalgia.
It does.
But also, the recognition that times change.
Right.
Tastes change.
What was once cool is now, yeah.
Now it's just embarrassing.
Yeah. Like looking at old photos of yourself.
Exactly. What was I thinking?
Okay, speaking of cringeworthy, let's talk about a word that really captures that feeling of, visceral disgust.
Oh, okay.
Squeamish.
Squeamish, yeah.
It's like, you see something gross.
Right.
You just want to look away.
You want to run away.
The source uses squeamish to describe, someone's reaction to the sight of blood
Yeah.
or gore. It's like that, ugh,
It's that physical reaction.
Yeah, it's like your stomach is doing flips
It is.
and you just want to escape. So is squeamishness just a physical reaction? Well, that's a really interesting question. And I think it's one that we could discuss at length.
For sure.
But for now, I want to shift our focus to something a little bit different.
Okay.
The importance of not dwelling on negative experiences.
Ooh. Not dwelling on the negative.
Yeah. Because we all do it, don't we?
We do.
We get stuck in those loops,
Right.
replaying past mistakes,
Yeah.
worrying about, what might happen.
The what ifs.
The what ifs. And our source really emphasizes the importance of focusing on the present,
Right.
letting go of the past.
Easier said than done sometimes.
It is. But dwelling on negativity, it just drains our energy.
It does.
And it prevents us from embracing those new opportunities.
It's like carrying around a backpack full of rocks.
It is. It weighs you down.
Okay. So we need to lighten our mental load.
We do.
Focus on what we can control.
Absolutely. But sometimes, even when we're trying to be, positive, we need a little extra boost.
Yeah, we do.
Our source suggests that we might need to psych ourselves up.
Oh, psych ourselves up. Okay.
Yeah.
Like a pep talk.
Exactly. For a challenging task or, a difficult situation,
All right.
it could involve visualization,
Right.
positive affirmations,
Okay.
or even just, taking a few deep breaths.
Right. And reminding ourselves that we can do it.
Exactly. It's about finding that inner strength.
Okay. So we've psyched ourselves up,
We have,
but then we encounter, resistance or opposition.
right?
So when do we stand our ground
Yeah.
and when do we back down?
That is a tough one. And our source talks about the strategic importance of, knowing when to fight
Okay.
and knowing when to retreat.
Makes sense.
Because sometimes backing down, it's not a sign of weakness.
Right.
It's a strategic move
Yeah.
to preserve your energy for, more important battles.
It's like choosing your battles wisely.
It is. It's a valuable skill.
Okay, well, speaking of things that can, drive us a little crazy, let's talk about a phrase that captures that feeling of utter exasperation.
Right?
To do one's head in.
Oh, to do one's head in.
That moment when you're ready to scream into a pillow.
You are.
What is going on?
The source uses it to describe, that feeling of just being utterly overwhelmed,
Yeah,
driven to distraction.
like your brain is on overload.
It is. It needs a break.
Yeah. It's like trying to, assemble that piece of furniture.
Right.
Where the instructions make absolutely no sense.
Exactly. And you just want to give up.
You just want to chuck the whole thing out the window.
Yeah.
So how do we manage those moments when, our heads are about to explode?
Well, that's a great question.
It is.
And it's one that we'll definitely unpack further as we continue to explore advanced everyday English.
Okay.
But for now, I want to focus on a word that captures that feeling of, something being ongoing
Okay.
and seemingly inescapable.
Right.
Perpetual.
Perpetual.
Okay.
Like, I don't know, that dripping faucet
Yeah.
that you can never, quote, seem to fix.
Exactly. A constant source of annoyance.
Yeah. It's like a little reminder that, some problems just don't go away.
They don't. But is perpetual always negative?
Ooh, good question. Could it be positive?
I think it can be. It can also be used to describe things that are enduring,
Okay.
reliable, like, the perpetual cycle of the seasons.
Right.
Or, the perpetual bond of friendship.
So it's all about perspective.
It is.
Sometimes what seems like a curse is actually, a blessing.
It can be.
Okay. Well, speaking of things that can be both good,
Mm-hmm.
and speaking of things that can be both good and bad, let's talk about a word that captures that feeling of, disappointment or even pity. Pathetic.
Pathetic.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
It is. It's like, I don't know, like watching someone trip and fall and you feel bad for them.
Right.
But you also can't help but chuckle a little bit. Yeah, it's like, the source uses it to describe a performance that's just so lacking in effort or skill that it's almost painful to watch.
Right.
It's that, like someone tells a joke and it just falls flat.
Yeah.
And you just cringe hoping they'll recover.
Yeah. But is it ever okay to call someone or something pathetic? Isn't that a little harsh?
It really depends. Sometimes, it's used in a more lighthearted way. Like
Yeah.
if you're, teasing a friend about their terrible cooking.
Sure.
But when it's directed at someone's efforts or character, then yeah, it can be pretty cutting.
Okay. So we have to be careful.
We do. Words can have a big impact.
Speaking of impact,
Yeah.
let's talk about a phrase that's all about challenging someone's authority.
Oh, yeah.
To call their bluff.
Call their bluff. That's a bold move.
It is.
Our source uses it in a situation where one person suspects that the other person is exaggerating or lying about their position.
Right.
It's basically saying, I don't believe you. Prove it.
Right.
It's a risky move.
It is.
Because if you're wrong, you could lose a lot.
Yeah.
But if you're right, you gain the upper hand.
So it's a gamble.
It is.
Okay, so high stakes. Let's move on to a word that has a much more positive connotation.
Okay.
Adept.
Adept, yeah.
That suggests, a high level of skill.
Right, like expertise.
It's like, I don't know, that friend who can solve a Rubik's Cube in seconds,
Yeah, exactly.
or that colleague who can just whip up a brilliant presentation
Right.
and make it look so easy.
They do.
Our source actually highlights someone who's adept at, reaping the rewards of their actions.
So it's not just skill.
Right.
It's also, shrewdness.
Right.
Strategic thinking.
Like they know how to, make things happen.
Yeah.
But even the most adept individuals can get caught up in a frenzy every now and then.
Oh, a frenzy. Yes.
Right, that feeling of, I don't know, uncontrolled energy.
Right, like a whirlwind.
Yeah, whirlwind of emotions.
Yeah. Factions.
Like being swept away by a current.
It is a bit like that, isn't it? You lose control.
You're just along for the ride.
You are.
But frenzies,
Yeah.
they don't last forever. Eventually things start to settle down.
They do.
And we enter this period of, dwindling.
Dwindling. Yeah, it suggests, a gradual decrease.
Like a fading light.
Exactly.
Or, I don't know, a melting ice cube.
Yeah, that feeling of something slowly slipping away.
Right. Like the end of summer.
It is a bit like that.
But even in the midst of decline, we can experience, those sudden upsurges
Oh, yeah, an upsurge. Yeah.
of energy or activity.
It's that sudden increase.
It's like a wave crashing on the shore.
It is.
Or, I don't know, a geyser erupting.
That feeling of, momentum building.
It's like your favorite band announcing a reunion tour.
Exactly. Suddenly you're full of excitement.
Yeah, yeah. But change doesn't always happen overnight. Sometimes it's a more gradual process, phasing in new ideas or practices.
Phasing in, yeah. It suggests a more deliberate approach.
Right, well planned.
It's about creating a smooth transition.
Right. Minimize the disruption.
Exactly.
It's like easing into a cold swimming pool.
It is a bit like that, isn't it?
Dip your toes in first.
Yeah.
But sometimes we also need to phase out those things that aren't serving us anymore.
Phase out. Yeah, that suggests a gradual removal.
Right.
Like, slowly reducing our dependence on fossil fuels.
Okay.
Or discontinuing a product.
It's like decluttering our lives.
It is. Getting rid of the old to make way for the new.
But change, whether it's phased in or out, can sometimes leave us feeling a bit Well, jaded.
Jaded, yeah. It's that sense of, weariness or disillusionment.
Right, like you've just had enough.
You have. The sparkle's gone.
Yeah. It's like eating too much candy.
Yeah, exactly.
It was fun at first.
It was.
But now you just feel sick. So how do we combat that jaded feeling? Do we need, like, a complete life overhaul?
That's a really good question. I mean, that's probably a topic for a whole other deep dive.
Yeah.
It is.
But for now, I want to focus on a word that I think is often used in a very positive light.
Okay.
Pledge.
Pledge.
It suggests a very solemn promise.
Right.
Like the oath a doctor takes, or the commitment a couple makes on their wedding day.
A vow.
Yeah. It implies that deep sense of responsibility.
Okay.
The source mentions a politician making a pledge to support up-and-coming politicians.
Right.
And it really does highlight the importance of mentorship
Right.
and guidance, especially for those future leaders.
Yeah, it's about paying it forward. And, I think as we wrap up our deep dive into advanced everyday English, that's a perfect note to end on.
It is.
It's not just about, sounding smarter or more sophisticated.
Yeah.
It's about using language to connect, to inspire, to make a real difference.
Absolutely. And remember, this journey of language learning, it never really ends.
It doesn't.
There's always more to discover, always more to learn.
I like that.
So keep exploring, keep learning, keep having fun with it. This has been another fascinating deep dive into advanced everyday English. See you next time for more linguistic adventures.
All right, let's ditch those beach towels and grab some textbooks because we are going deep into the world of learning English as a second language today.
But not your typical classroom setting, though.
No, not at all.
We're going to a hotel institute in Indonesia.
We're headed to Indonesia to a hotel institute.
That's right. We'll be looking at a training module from the SIHI Subang International Hotel Institute.
Wow.
From back in 2020.
Okay.
It's called Model English Conversations. .pdf, and it's designed to help aspiring hotel staff master the art of English conversation.
What I think is really cool about this is that it doesn't just focus on the, grammar rules.
Yeah.
It's got all these practical phrases and dialogue specifically for the kinds of things that hotel staff have to deal with every day.
Right. Think of it as a crash course in everything from greeting guests to handling those, shall we say, spirited complaints, all while navigating the unique linguistic landscape of a hotel environment.
Okay, so let's unpack the structure of this module a little bit. First off, how exactly does it approach teaching English conversation?
Well, the module's main purpose is crystal clear. It's to give these hotel students the English skills they need to thrive in real-world interactions. And they achieve this by placing a heavy emphasis on what's called dry practice.
Dry practice.
Yeah.
Is that like learning to swim without getting in the water?
It's a bit like, it basically means they focus on hands-on learning through role-playing and simulations.
Okay.
It's all about getting the students to actually use the language in realistic scenarios as opposed to just memorizing vocabulary lists.
Interesting.
In fact, a whopping 70% of the curriculum is dedicated to this type of active learning.
Wow, 70%, they clearly believe in learning by doing.
Yeah.
So what sorts of scenarios does this module cover?
Well, module dives right into 17 different conversational expressions covering a wide range of situations you typically encounter in a hotel.
Okay, so they're not wasting any time.
No.
I'm dying to know more about these expressions. What are some of the most intriguing ones?
Well, one that immediately caught my eye is their approach to time and calculation. Instead of saying 7.25, like they teach the students to say 25 past 7.
Really?
Yeah, it's a small difference, but it highlights how language can adapt to specific contexts.
I find that so interesting. I wonder if it's like a regional way of expressing time or something specific to the hospitality industry.
That's a great question, and it really speaks to the heart of what we're exploring here.
Yeah.
This module provides a fascinating glimpse into how language is used in a very particular setting. Another great example of this is their section on how to describe objects.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about that. I noticed they get quite specific.
They do. They actually provide a very precise adjective order for describing things.
Okay.
Opinion, size, shape, age, color, origin, material, and finally, purpose or qualifier.
Wow.
So instead of just saying a nice big round table, you'd say a beautiful, large, round, antique brown Indonesian wooden dining table.
Wow. That's quite a mouthful.
Yeah.
But I can see how that level of detail could be important in a hotel setting.
It's exactly. Imagine a guest has lost a piece of luggage, and the staff need to communicate clearly about its appearance to find it.
Right.
This specific adjective order helps ensure everyone is on the same page,
Okay.
preventing confusion and wasted time.
That makes perfect sense. It's like a linguistic system designed for efficiency and clarity in a fast-paced environment.
Precisely. And this focus on practical application extends to other sections as well, like telephoning.
Ah, yes. The dreaded phone call.
Right.
Does the module cover those cringe-worthy moments when you accidentally answer the phone in your best just woke up voice?
Well, maybe not that specifically.
Okay.
But they do offer both formal and informal scripts for handling phone calls, which I think is brilliant.
That's so smart. It's like acknowledging that there's a whole spectrum of communication styles, even within a professional environment.
Exactly. For instance, if it's a potential guest inquiring about room availability,
Yeah.
a formal tone is definitely called for. You use polite phrases like, "Good morning, thank you for calling hotel name. How may I assist you?"
It's all about creating that polished first impression, making guests feel valued and confident in the hotel's service from the moment they pick up the phone.
Right.
But I imagine things get a little more relaxed when it's staff talking amongst themselves, right?
Absolutely. For example, let's say you're calling a colleague about a maintenance issue. In that scenario, a more casual approach is perfectly acceptable.
Okay.
You might say something like, "Hey, it's your name. We've got a bit of a situation in room 205.
So it's not just about knowing English, it's about knowing how to use it appropriately in different situations.
Exactly.
It's like having a linguistic toolbox with different tools for different jobs.
That's a great analogy. You wouldn't use a hammer to tighten a screw.
Yeah.
And similarly, you adjust your language based on the context and who you're talking to.
Yeah.
And this module seems to have a tool for just about every occasion. But let's not forget about one of the most common and sometimes dreaded aspects of hotel life, dealing with complaints.
Ah, yes, the complaints. Because let's face it, no matter how perfect a hotel strives to be, there will always be something that doesn't quite meet a guest's expectations. How does this module approach such a delicate topic?
It tackles it head on, providing incredibly realistic dialogues for handling complaints.
Really?
It goes beyond simply teaching polite phrases and actually delves into strategies for de-escalating tense situations and resolving issues effectively.
So they're not just teaching English, they're teaching conflict resolution skills as well.
Exactly. They equip students with phrases for expressing empathy and understanding, offer solutions and apologies, and ultimately aim to leave the guest feeling heard and respected, even if their issue can't be immediately resolved.
That's so important. It's like they're recognizing that language can be a powerful tool for building relationships and diffusing potentially difficult situations.
Precisely, and it all comes back to that core principle of practical application.
Yeah.
This module doesn't just teach students what to say, it teaches them how to say it in a way that achieves a specific goal.
So we've got this module packed with practical phrases and dialogues, all tailored to the unique demands of the hospitality industry. But I'm curious to know more about how some of these expressions work in practice. What do you say we take a deeper dive into a specific section?
I'm all for that we could explore the intricacies of describing objects, delve into the nuances of formal versus informal telephone conversations, or even analyze those complaint dialogues in more detail.
So many options. Which one speaks to you the most? I'm really intrigued by that whole idea of having different communication styles for different situations, like you were saying.
Yeah.
Let's go into that telephoning section you mentioned earlier. I'm curious to see how they navigate the line between formal and informal language.
Yeah, it really highlights how this module prepares students for that dynamic nature of communication.
Yeah.
In a hotel environment, it's not just about knowing English, it's about knowing when to kind of switch gears and adjust your approach based on who's on the other end of the line.
Exactly. It's like they're learning to read the room.
Yeah.
Even when there's no room to read, just a voice on the phone.
Right now, imagine you're a receptionist at this hotel.
Okay.
And the phone rings.
Okay.
If it's a potential guest calling to inquire about room availability, you'd instinctively adopt a more formal tone.
Right.
The module gives examples like, "Good morning, thank you for calling hotel name. How may I assist you?"
It sounds very professional and polished.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. You want to project an image of, competence and reliability right from the start. But wouldn't that same level of formality feel a bit stiff if you were calling, say, the maintenance staff about a leaky faucet?
You've hit the nail on the head. The module acknowledges this by providing a separate set of phrases for more informal calls between colleagues.
Interesting.
It's all about striking the right balance. You wouldn't want to use slang with a guest, but a bit of casual language with a coworker
Right.
can help build rapport and streamline communication.
So it's not just about sounding proper, it's about being appropriate for the situation.
Right.
It's like they're learning a whole new set of social cues,
Right.
but for the phone.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
They've essentially created a mini course in telephone etiquette woven into their English language training.
That's so cool.
And they even sprinkle in some common slang terms to help students navigate those more casual conversations.
Oh, that's right. You mentioned that earlier. What kind of slang do they include? I have to admit, I'm a little curious.
Well, they use examples like grab a bite instead of have a meal,
Okay.
or chilling as a shortened version of chilling out.
Okay.
It might seem like small stuff, but it helps students understand that language is constantly evolving and adapting to different social contexts.
That's so true. And I bet it's a relief for the students to know that they don't have to sound like robots all the time.
Yeah.
But I can also see how teaching slang could be tricky.
Yeah.
There are so many regional variations and it can change so quickly.
You're absolutely right. That's why it's crucial for language instructors to stay up to date on the latest trends and tailor their teaching to the specific needs of their students.
Right.
In this case, I imagine they're focusing on slang terms that are common in Indonesia and relevant to the hospitality industry.
That makes sense. It's like they're giving these students a secret decoder ring for navigating the complex world of English as it's actually spoken, not just how it appears in textbooks.
I love that analogy. And it's not just about understanding the words themselves. It's about grasping the subtle nuances of tone, formality, and cultural context.
It's making me think about how often we take those nuances for granted in our own native languages.
Right.
We switch between different communication styles so effortlessly that we don't even realize we're doing it.
It's like a dance, isn't it? We instinctively adapt our steps to the music and our partner.
Yeah,
And when you're learning a new language, you're essentially learning a new dance routine.
that's a beautiful way to put it. And this module is like a crash course in the most essential steps for anyone hoping to dance their way through the world of English conversation in a hotel environment.
Exactly. And it's not just about individual steps.
Right.
It's about understanding the overall choreography.
Okay, so we've seen how this module equips students with the skills to handle both formal and informal phone calls, which is a pretty impressive feat.
Yes.
But I can't help but wonder, what about those situations that go beyond a simple phone call?
Yeah.
You know, those face-to-face encounters where things can get a little, shall we say, heated? You're talking about the complaints section, right?
Exactly. Those moments of truth.
Yeah.
It's fascinating how this module doesn't shy away from these challenging scenarios.
Yes.
It dives right into the heart of conflict resolution, equipping students with the linguistic tools to navigate those choppy waters.
I'm so impressed by how they've managed to turn potentially negative situations into valuable learning opportunities.
Right.
It's like they're saying, hey, complaints are going to happen. Yeah.
So let's make sure you're prepared to handle them with grace and professionalism.
And remember, this isn't just about smoothing things over. It's about empowering the students to communicate effectively, even under pressure.
Yeah.
They're learning to express empathy, offer solutions, and ultimately aim for a resolution that leaves both parties feeling respected.
It's like they're being trained as linguistic diplomats, ready to negotiate peace in the realm of customer service. It makes you realize how much power language holds in those situations.
Yeah.
A well-chosen phrase can de-escalate a tense exchange and turn a potential PR disaster into a positive interaction.
Absolutely. This module highlights how language can be a bridge connecting people even when their expectations haven't been met.
Yeah.
It's about building relationships even in the midst of a complaint.
So we've explored how this module tackles everything from time-telling to telephoning, all with a focus on equipping students with the practical English skills they need to thrive in a hotel environment. But what does this all mean for our listeners? Well, I think it offers a valuable lesson for anyone learning a language, whether it's for professional or personal reasons. It's not just about memorizing grammar rules and vocabulary lists. It's about understanding how language functions in the real world, how it adapts to different social contexts, and how it can be used to achieve specific goals.
It's about being aware of those subtle nuances we talked about earlier, knowing when to shift gears between formal and informal language, and even mastering the art of turning a complaint into a constructive conversation.
Exactly. And this module provides a wonderful example of how those principles can be applied in a very specific setting.
It's like they've given us a glimpse into a secret world of language,
Yeah.
where phrases have a power beyond their literal meaning, and it makes you wonder what other hidden corners of language are out there waiting to be explored.
That's a great question to leave our listeners with.
Yeah.
We've seen how English is used in a hotel environment in Indonesia.
Right.
But what about other professions? What about your own line of work? What unique vocabulary and expressions do you use to navigate your professional world?
It's a fascinating thought, isn't it? Language is constantly evolving, adapting to new environments and challenges, and who knows, maybe you, dear listener, are shaping the future of language in your own unique way.
Perhaps this deep dive has sparked a curiosity in you to explore those linguistic frontiers.
Yeah.
Who knows what fascinating discoveries await?
And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder those possibilities. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of English conversation Indonesian hotel style. All right, welcome back to the deep dive. We're diving into advanced everyday English this time. We've got Stephen Collins' book. It's not like, your typical grammar textbook, I'll tell you that.
Oh, no, not at all.
Yeah.
It's much more exciting than that.
Yeah, it's packed with these colorful idioms and expressions, stuff you wouldn't find in, just your average English class.
Definitely. What I think is so cool about this book is that it's not just defining the words, it's showing you how to use them.
Right.
How to actually weave them into your conversations and, add that extra layer of nuance and really make your English sound more authentic.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so let's just jump right in.
Okay.
One that I saw, I was like, oh, to rub someone up the wrong way. I mean, who hasn't met someone who just knows how to push your buttons?
Right. It's funny how that idiom really captures that subtle way that, we can irritate each other, sometimes without even realizing it.
Yeah.
The book gives an example of someone who, brags a lot.
Uh-huh.
And that, rubs another person the wrong way.
Yeah.
It's not just being annoyed. It's a very specific type of, irritation that comes from, those personality clashes.
Yeah.
Or just, different opinions.
Yeah, totally. It's like nails on a chalkboard, but for your soul.
Yeah.
Speaking of feeling irritated, how about this one? To do one's head in.
Oh, yeah.
Perfectly captures that feeling of being overwhelmed and frustrated. It's like, when you're trying to put together, I don't know, some furniture.
Yeah.
And the instructions are written in hieroglyphics or something.
Absolutely. I think the book mentions how it's that, you're stressed.
Yeah.
But this is you've hit your limit.
Yeah.
You've been troubleshooting the computer for hours and you just want to chuck the whole thing out the window.
Oh, been there.
Yeah.
And while we're talking about kind of, these big emotions, how about to be gutted? This one hit me right in the feels.
Yeah.
That feeling of devastation, when your team loses, in the final seconds of a huge game.
Yeah, or it's such a powerful image.
Yeah.
Of emptiness and despair.
Yeah.
It's so much more evocative than just saying, I'm sad.
Right.
It's that raw emotion.
Totally. All right. Let's go to something a little lighter, a little more fun.
Okay.
How about to get a kick out of something?
Oh, yeah. I love that word.
This one just makes me smile. It's about finding pure joy, excitement in something. I don't know, you discover a hidden talent or you try a new recipe. It's delicious.
What I love about that one is the energy of it.
Yeah.
It's not just enjoying something.
Right.
It's that burst of,
Yes.
pleasure.
Yes.
From something unexpected or exciting. It's when you finally figure out that puzzle
Yeah.
you've been working on for days.
And it's contagious.
Yes.
When someone else is genuinely excited about something. Yeah. Just get swept up in it.
Absolutely.
Okay, this next one, I feel it's a little tricky. To be past it, I feel this is often used humorously.
Right.
To suggest that, someone's getting a little too old for something.
Uh-huh.
But there's a fine line, I think, between playful teasing and then, unintentional offense.
Yeah, you're right. The context is everything. It's all about the intention.
Yeah.
And, it can be that lighthearted way to acknowledge, time is passing.
Right.
But, if it's not used sensitively, it can be dismissive.
Right.
Even ageist.
Yeah. So, think before you speak.
Yeah.
Especially with things like that. Okay, back to some fun ones. Once in a blue moon. This one's pretty self-explanatory, right? It's something that happens very rarely.
Yeah. What I find interesting is the book highlights how it's often used when people are complaining.
Right.
About how infrequent something is.
Yeah.
They're emphasizing the frustration.
Yeah, totally. Oh, this amazing thing happens so rarely, I might as well just give up all hope.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so for the go-getters out there, we've got to psych oneself up for something.
Oh, yeah.
This is all about, like, mental preparation, positive self-talk. You know, like when you're facing a challenge.
It's about using, like your mind to influence how you're going to do.
Right.
Think of an athlete visualizing their success before a big competition.
Yeah.
Or, a musician calming their nerves before a concert.
Yeah.
It's really interesting how language can be used as that tool.
Yeah.
For, self-motivation.
Right. Totally.
And empowerment.
And sometimes we need all the mental strength we can get.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially when, shall we say, we are skint.
Oh, skint. I love that word.
I love that word. Such a colorful way to say, like, broke, short on money.
And using slang like that well,
yeah,
it could really demonstrate, that you have a grasp of informal English.
Right.
You're comfortable with that more like playful, expressive side of the language.
Absolutely, yeah. Speaking of expressive language, how about clutching at straws? This is such a vivid way to describe that feeling of, like, desperation when you're holding on to, like, the slimmest sliver of hope, even when logic is telling you, like, it's probably not going to happen.
What's so interesting about this one is where it comes from.
Okay.
It's actually from the image of, like, a drowning person.
Oh, wow.
Desperately grabbing anything, even straws, to stay afloat.
Wow.
So just, like, perfectly encapsulates that feeling.
Wow, that is so interesting. Okay, and last but not least, we have one that's shrouded in a bit of mystery.
Okay.
A dark horse. That person who seems to come out of nowhere and surprise everyone. Like hidden talents, unexpected success.
I love that one. It's a good reminder to never underestimate anyone.
Yeah.
Even those who fly under the radar.
Yeah, for sure. It's like discovering a hidden gem, or witnessing, like, a burst of brilliance. There's a certain thrill to that,
Absolutely. And dark horse is a really great example of how language evolves over time.
Okay.
It started in horse racing,
Right.
referring to a horse whose abilities were unknown, but now it's applied to all kinds of situations.
Wow, so cool. I don't know about you, but I feel like my vocabulary has just, like, expanded tenfold already.
I know. We've only just scratched the surface here.
Yeah.
But I think what's so important is that, mastering these idioms, it's not just about memorizing definitions.
Right.
It's understanding those subtle nuances, the cultural context.
Yeah.
And really how they can add, depth and richness to the way you communicate.
Totally. It's about taking your English from, like, textbook perfect to, like, native speaker fluent.
Exactly.
That's a journey worth taking, I think.
It really is.
Yeah.
But, what strikes me about these idioms is that they're not just about sounding impressive. They're about capturing those subtle shades of meaning that can be so hard to express with simpler vocabulary.
Yeah.
They really are. It strikes me is that they're not just about sounding impressive.
Right.
It's about capturing those subtle shades of meaning that, like, you wouldn't be able to express with simpler vocabulary.
That's so true. Like, you wouldn't say, I'm feeling a bit, rubbed up the wrong way by this situation.
It doesn't have the same impact.
No, it really doesn't. And I think that's why, mastering these expressions can really elevate your English. It's like having this whole new set of tools to express yourself more precisely, more authentically.
It's about painting a more vivid and colorful picture with your words. And speaking of colorful language, what about slang?
Oh, yeah.
The book mentioned, like, skint as an informal way to say that you're broke.
Yeah.
And I just love how slang can just add personality and a sense of familiarity to a conversation. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And being able to use slang appropriately, I think, is a sign of, like, really advanced language proficiency.
Right.
Shows that you understand the nuances of informal communication.
Yeah.
You're comfortable stepping outside of that, like, textbook English.
But, knowing when and where to use slang is key, right? You don't want to accidentally offend someone by using a term that's too casual or inappropriate.
Exactly. It's all about reading the room and adapting your language to that social context.
Yeah.
And, that's a skill that comes with practice and, exposing yourself to different communication styles.
Yeah, totally. It's like learning the unspoken rules of a new culture.
Yeah.
But, through language.
For sure.
One thing that really struck me when I was reading this book was the power of imagery in language. Like, so many of these idioms create such vivid mental pictures.
Yeah.
And that makes them so much easier to remember and understand.
Absolutely. Think about clutching at straws. That image of a drowning person. Right.
Desperately trying to grab at anything, even straws, to stay afloat.
Right.
It's so powerful.
Yeah.
And it perfectly captures that sense of desperation,
Yeah.
the dwindling hope.
And that visual connection makes it stick. You know?
Yeah.
It's not just a phrase, it's like a story. And stories are powerful tools.
They are. And that's what's so great about advanced everyday English. It's not just a collection of idioms.
Right.
It's like a guide to unlocking the storytelling potential of English.
Right.
It's about understanding how these expressions can add depth and humor, emotional resonance, all of that.
It's about taking your English to the next level, where you're not just speaking the language, but you're wielding it
Exactly.
with confidence and finesse. And that brings us to, I think, a really important point. Context is everything.
Yes, it is.
We talked about it with slang, you know, like social context, but it really applies to all aspects of advanced English.
Right.
What might be considered polite or appropriate in one culture could be super offensive or inappropriate in another. It really could.
So cultural awareness is key. You can't just learn a list of words and phrases. You have to understand the nuances of how they're used
Exactly.
in different situations and across cultures.
That's where resources like this book can be so helpful.
Right.
They're not just giving you the vocabulary, they're giving you the insights
Right.
into how it's used.
Like having a cultural guidebook, alongside your dictionary. So let's dive into some specifics here. Remember to be past it.
Yeah.
We talked about how this phrase can be both playful and potentially offensive.
Right.
Depending on the intention, the relationship between the speaker and the listener.
Right. In a group of friends who are close, it might be a harmless way to tease someone about getting older.
Yeah.
But in a professional setting.
Yeah.
Or if you don't know the person well, could be perceived very differently.
Totally. So knowing your audience is so crucial. And I think that sensitivity to context, that's a hallmark of truly advanced English.
It really is. It shows you're not just fluent in the language. You're fluent in the culture,
Yeah.
the social norms.
It's about going beyond the textbook
Yeah.
and developing that intuitive understanding of how language works in the real world.
And that intuition comes from, exposure, practice, being willing to embrace the complexities of language and culture.
It's a journey, not a destination. And speaking of journeys, I'm curious, have you ever had any personal experiences where you realized the importance of understanding the cultural context of language?
Many times, actually. It makes you realize how much our language is a product of our culture.
Yeah.
What seems totally natural to us can sound really strange to someone else.
It's like you're seeing your own language, for the first time, with new eyes.
Exactly.
Noticing all the little quirks and things that you've just always taken for granted.
Exactly. I remember one time I was trying to explain the word saudade to a friend who's an English speaker, and there just isn't a direct equivalent in English.
Right. For that feeling of longing and melancholy for something that's gone.
Yeah, I've definitely run into those kinds of untranslatable words in other languages too. It makes you realize that language is so much more than just a communication tool.
Right.
It's a reflection of a culture's values and beliefs and even their emotional landscape.
It really is. And that's what makes learning a new language so cool, you know?
Yeah.
It's not just about the vocabulary. It's about broadening your understanding of the world.
Right.
And how other people experience it.
Yeah, it's like you're opening a window into another culture's soul.
I love that.
And speaking of expanding our understanding, I think we've covered a lot of ground today in this deep dive into advanced everyday English. We've explored idioms. We talked about slang and the importance of cultural context.
Yeah, we went beyond the simple definitions and really got to the heart of what it means to master a language.
Right.
It's so much more than just speaking correctly.
It's about effective communication, expressing yourself authentically, really connecting with people on a deeper level.
It's about using language as a tool for creativity and empathy and understanding.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
And remember, everyone, the learning never stops. Keep exploring, keep learning, keep having fun with the language.
Yeah. And who knows, maybe one day you'll be the one sharing your own untranslatable expression with the world. We hope this deep dive has inspired you to continue on your own language learning adventure. And we'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.